Now, the rest of the story. It's a very popular Michigan golf club about an hour's drive north of Detroit, and one sunny afternoon last October, as sleepy autumn shadows yawned in the sprawling fairways, the air came alive with sounds of a distant throng, the hearty music of men's laughter wafting on the already fragrant breeze, and the congregation from whence it came was in the clubhouse, an assembly of seafarers lifting their glasses to a voyage long gone by, a reunion of the crew of the USS Pandamus. Ordinarily, such a celebration would never have taken place here, but these American sailors of the Second World War were reunited as the guests of a local millionaire, a retired General Motors executive, the owner of the golf club. And for hours, the 28 former crewmen, now well into their 60s, respun the yarns of old, rekindled memories into proportions larger than life, and then Tom Hilt, the machinist's mate, sat back in his chair, and he remembered the autumn of 45, and he said, "We steamed into Shanghai Harbor." And there were lots of reasons for them all to remember that. For the war had ended. For another, there were those children. How could anybody aboard the Pandamus ever forget those children, the homeless waterfront waifs who had begged for scraps of food? One in particular, his name was Han, H-A-N. He had appointed himself distributor of the leftovers that the ship's cooks had doled out. And this boy, Han, couldn't have been more than 12. Always made sure that the other children had eaten before he would take one bite. Then Tom said, "Remember the night a pail of bilge fell over the side and landed right on the kid's head," and everybody nodded with sad, poignant smiles. The child had not been badly hurt by the bucket, but when some of the crewmen rushed down for a look, they discovered a naked, shivering, whimpering, ill, and obviously malnourished youngster who would not recover without their help. It was against regulations, of course, but Tom Hilt smuggled the boy into the crew's quarters and got him medical attention. Well, little Han had scurvy. His head was covered with open sores. He was in sorry shape, but in the friendly care of the sailors of the Pandamus, he got well again. Eventually, they learned of Han's abuse by a cruel step-grandmother and of how he had run away to live on the docks. But Han belonged to the Pandamus now, if only for a while, and he and his new friends would make the most of it. Hans learned English quickly, including some of the more powerful artillery in a sailor's phraseological arsenal. And he learned how to maintain some of the naval equipment, and finally in 1946, as the crew faced transfer, Seaman Hilton Kennedy raised $225 to get Han entered in a Roman Catholic boys' school in Shanghai. And then the Chinese waif and his new friends, through tears, said goodbye. Of all of the tales retold in the golf club clubhouse that day, the reunited crewmen of the Pandamus were touched most by the one you've just heard. For one of those crewmen, Tom Kennedy, even after years had passed, sent cash and clothing to young Han and eventually arranged for that boy to come to the United States, where he, Han, had worked hard and then got a job at General Motors until he had a staff of his own and until he could retire a millionaire. You see, the reunion of the Pandamus crew last October happened at a golf club owned by Peter Han, the strapping, handsome, 55-year-old tycoon who has not forgot the men who were nor the boy who was, homeless and hurting and sobbing in the night. And now you know the rest of the story.